Well, good evening, everyone, Mr. President, members of the board, and tonight, members of the Westminster Public Schools community. Appreciate a lot of our educators being here in the audience tonight as well. Believe it or not, this is the 11th time that I've done this. I started when I was 12, just to be clear with everybody. I'm going to pass this down as a copy of the remarks for the board.
Thank you.
Last year we had to do all this virtually. It's kind of nice being here in the flesh in 3D. There's a centuries-old Chinese saying, and it goes like this: may we live in interesting times. Some view it as a curse, and others as a grand opportunity. And either way, that really does define us right now. All of us are living through interesting and challenging times. So I'm going to start tonight with our challenges. As I say this, I'm quickly reminded that this isn't the first time this can be said about Westminster Public Schools or the people who live here. Back in November, the City of Westminster's Economic Development Team honored the school district for its 75-year history of educating children this year. In May 1946, School District 9, Westminster, number 25, Baker, and number 98, Berkeley Gardens, merged to form Adams County's School District 50. And we, of course, rebranded in 2016 and became Westminster Public Schools. So I thought it might be poignant tonight to look back to 1946 for a minute. As a country, we were emerging from World War II, and the greatest generation was facing the challenges of building a new world from the chaos and destruction of a global conflict. That's a part of history we all know. But you'll find it interesting, I think, to see that 75 years ago, we were also dealing with some parallels to what we're experiencing now. Natural disasters and a dangerous virus were in the headlines. In the fall of 1946, the Front Range endured the worst blizzard in 33 years. From November 2nd to the 4th, 30.4 inches of snow fell across the region. According to Westward, old-timers in town will tell you that this snow was one of the clearest memories of their childhood. I bet they called a snow day. Just like the recent fire in Superior, the community rallied. A couple of examples. Army planes scoured the prairies, dropping skis and supplies to isolated families who tramped out distress signals in the snow. Cattle ranchers across the state risked losing everything, so the state mobilized using planes and rail lines to get hay to animals and move them to safety. And in 1946, teachers, parents, and children lived in fear not of COVID-19, but of polio. Take a look at the headline from the San Antonio Express. All San Antonio schools close. 2 more polio suspect cases reported. I tell you this not to minimize what we're going through, but as a reminder to all of us that when challenged, we rise to the occasion. And because of that, and because of what we've been through over the past couple of years, I can tell you, Board, that the state of Westminster Public Schools is strong. We saw it through the support we gave to our employees impacted by the Marshall Fire. Along with the WPS Foundation, we made more than $50,000 available to victims, in addition to food, clothing, household goods, and more. I've received so many heartwarming messages from people who were impacted. I also want to acknowledge the Smith family and the Have a Heart organization, which closed their doors late last year after decades of important work providing at-risk families in the district with food and clothing. The Smiths saw a need and jumped in to fix it. I'll date myself here a little bit. I remember sitting in our old boardroom when Joe Smith, who was on the school board at the time, brought the concept forward. We are forever appreciative to them and what they have done for our community. And we are grateful for the other charitable agencies that have formed over time to also now fill in those needs. And in terms of COVID, we were able to keep people safe while placing a high priority on in-person learning. If you recall, it was Friday, March 13th, 2020, that we sent students and staff home, not knowing what the future really looked like. It's kind of scary. It was a very scary time. It was an uncertain time that has weighed heavily on all of us for almost 2 years now. So I want to give some thank yous and shout outs. Of course, our entire Westminster Public School staff, but in particular, I want to do a special shout out to Dr. Duffy and Kirk Leday for managing a constantly changing environment. This included our somewhat controversial decision, but in the end, the correct one, to require all employees to get vaccinated so our students could stay in person according to public health orders. James and Kirk have kept at it over the course of long weekends and late nights. And another partner I want to thank, who's been there all along the way, is Fran Groff Gonzalez and the Westminster Education Association, who have collaborated with us and helped us come up with solutions that we had to create out of thin air. Still, in spite of our best efforts, including 12 additional days of student learning last summer, it is clear that COVID has had a dramatic impact on student learning. Much of the momentum that we achieved and celebrated before the pandemic has stalled. We have some pretty sobering internal data before us that confirms what we suspected. While all students have been impacted by COVID, the achievement gap between school districts who have an impacted population versus more affluent communities and districts, that's grown. And we're taking some immediate steps to try and help all students, especially those who are struggling, but even students who are at the top of their game, their pacing's off too. Everyone has taken a toll. So this is a top priority. Westminster Public Schools is immediately allocating resources to provide focused intervention efforts for students. We're hiring tutors from all sectors, along with using READ Act dollars and a Colorado Department of Education high-impact tutoring grant to help our students catch up. This is no easy task, and as everyone is aware, there is already a shortage of employees in nearly every industry. So tonight, I'm putting forward a call to action by asking members of our community to consider lending their skills to this effort. For those who meet the requirements, we can pay you to come and work with students in small groups or individual sessions. If you are interested, please go to this website, mywps.org/tutor. Another thank you. Sandy Neese, our Chief Financial Officer, has done some amazing work with her team with the budgeting process and figuring out innovative ways to responsibly use COVID dollars to help us during the pandemic. And still another big challenge for us right now is student truancy. For a number of reasons, including fears and uncertainty about COVID, too many students are missing too many days of school. It goes without saying, if students are not with us, they cannot learn. Earlier this month, I shared details with the Board of Ed about a company called Attention to Attendance, with whom we are partnering to provide a more streamlined and robust parent notification system. I believe our principals are also aware and are embracing the program, which will be rolled out in the very near future. This is another avenue to communicate with parents and students about the importance of being in the classroom. And mental health for students and staff has emerged as an important ingredient in creating an effective learning environment. And Dr. Sandoval, Executive Director of Special Services for Westminster Public Schools, provided the board at its last meeting with an overview of the services the district offers, and that report has now been shared community-wide. And I'm proud to say that Westminster Public Schools is doing an excellent job of confronting these issues head-on. We have mental health professionals in all our buildings, and we work with the Community Reach Center to provide school-based therapists to support impacted students. And for our employees, we also have support through the district's Employee Assistance Program, which offers short-term counseling on all aspects of life at no cost to WPS employees and with full confidentiality. And now I'm going to switch to some highlights. We also know that in addition to mental health support, our students have basic needs that are not always met at home. One of the highlights of this past year was the return of our back-to-school barbecue and backpack giveaway. In partnership with a Precious Child and Chartwell's, our nutritional services provider, we had a wonderful day of food and fun where we also gave every student who needed one a backpack filled with school supplies. A date has not been set, but we plan to hold another event this summer, and I look forward to seeing everyone there. On another topic, our investments in our facilities are impressive. We have kept our word to the community to provide safe, attractive buildings for students and staff. We opened Orchard Park Academy on time and on budget for the school year. The pride the students and the staff and the parents had about their new school is everything we had hoped for. And the Robert J. Landgraf Center for Teaching Excellence is a wonderful addition to our district and a fitting tribute to a man who made such a difference in this community. And it is being well utilized. We also opened another Boys and Girls Club at Colorado Sports Leadership Academy, which is providing valuable after-school services for families on that side of town. And we also completed our purchase of the former Pearl Mac building and look forward to the completion of the Daniel E. Valles Family Education Center, which will be another valuable resource for not just students, but their families as well. It will serve as a lasting legacy for an educator who understood the importance of meaningful out-of-school support and family education. It's tough for students to focus on learning when they don't have all their basic needs met, and parents are key. Speaking of student opportunities and support, our Westie Futures and Juniors program has been a huge success, giving students of all ages an opportunity to play in organized sports. Right now, we have 600 students participating in our spring program. We don't lack for kids, but we can always use volunteer coaches. We can't seem to get enough. So if anyone is interested in helping there and we can use the help, please go to this website. It's www.westieathletics.com. And continuing with successes to celebrate in our district, on Friday we received confirmation that John E. Flynn of Marzano Academy became the first school in the country to earn the High Reliability Schools designation at all 5 levels. And this is an amazing accomplishment for Dr. Cassina and his staff. And a high reliability school is a standard of excellence that schools across the country are working to emulate. And just today, we were notified Sunset Ridge Elementary received their Level 1 designation, so they're on their way. And congratulations to Roger Vadine and his staff as well. Our goal is for all our schools to become high reliability schools. And moving on with other accolades, Dr. Jenny Gatto and Dr. Oliver Grenham received some great accolades this year that are worth noting. The Colorado Association of Leaders in Educational Technology, that's a mouthful, CALE, gave Jenny the Dan Moss Award as the Technology Leader of the Year for her work in using technology to improve educational outcomes for students. And this summer, the Global Forum for Education and Learning named Oliver Grenham as one of the top 100 visionaries. For those of you who don't know, that organization is an internationally recognized organization that brings together educators, innovators, and thought leaders with a focus on solving complex educational challenges. And as we prepared to welcome 2 new board members, we also celebrated awards for 2 outgoing board leaders. Joe Davidek, he received the Creative Arts Pipeline Legacy Award, and the prestigious McGuffey Award was presented to Ryan McCoy from the Colorado Association of School Boards. We're also watching the Colorado legislature again closely this year as we await an audit of the state of Colorado's deeply flawed accountability system. Dr. Grenham helped draft and pass House Bill 1294, which calls for an independent third party to look at the state accountability system and see if it's really doing what it was designed to do. In our view, it has evolved into a system that does little more than rank schools and districts on the results of high-stakes testing. Years and years of data have shown that the ratings are merely a reflection of a school's or district's demographics. It also penalizes innovation, like our competency-based system. And our competency-based system places real emphasis on learning, taking into account where students begin their educational journey and how they learn and how they pace through that. So a traditional cookie-cutter educational system is a very antiquated way to teach children. Sometimes I say it's the best thinking of the 12th century, actually. That was funny. Our focus is on the all-important day after graduation, and that's what makes our Power of Hope Post-Secondary Readiness Award so meaningful. The award recognizes school districts that engage school counselors in leadership roles that effectively organize and implement grades 6 through 12 college and career post-secondary enrollment strategies. We were one of just 6 districts to receive this recognition. And as we look to the future, we're poised to embark on our next strategic plan, Destination 2030, which we'll be discussing more as the year progresses. So as I wrap up tonight, let me circle back to where I began, talking about that greatest generation and living in interesting times. Remember when I talked about that record snowfall? Well, just months later, Aspen, Colorado, opened the longest and fastest ski lift in the world. That snow, such a liability in November, was viewed much differently in February. We can turn challenges into opportunities if we continue to come together as a community. In fact, we can even create a masterpiece. It takes all of us. Take a look. that to the Flynn staff I see sitting up here tonight too, because they deserve it. They came together as a community, and now look where you are. That greatest generation, our parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, they found a way to come together for a purpose bigger than themselves, even bigger than their families. And I believe we can learn from the past as we head into the future. We stand on the shoulders of inspiring leaders and heroes. We have a lot of those here in Westminster Public Schools. And we owe it to them and the generations to come to do everything in our power to meet the challenges we're now facing. And yes, we are another great generation. And I have no doubt we're up to the task. So I thank you all for your time and your commitment to Westminster Public Schools, where education is personal. Thank you.